Hi, so my daughter suggested that I did a video regarding my chemotherapy journey because I'd used so many alternative practices to run alongside the chemo, and she felt that others might benefit from that information. I realized when I tried to do this last week that uh, there was too much talk for one video. Um, Too much talk for me, no way. Anyway, so I basically decided that I had to break it down into a few shorter videos. So I'm going to do one about sleeping, one about injections, one about exercise, nutrition, mindset. And then there'll be like a miscellaneous one because there's a few little bits and bobs that I want to talk about as well. I know without breaking it down, it would be far too long a video. But I really hope that it helps you. My dad always said, Jenny won't use one word when 100 will do. And basically, all these things that I'm going to share are things that I have done, and they've helped me to navigate what is really quite an arduous time. But please bear in mind, I'm not a qualified nurse, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionalist. I'm just somebody that's experienced chemo, and having done it recently, I am a spiritual healer, but we all are actually, in fact. So if you're here for the first time and you're about to embark on chemotherapy, well, firstly, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're going through this because it's just shitty, really. None of us choose to be here, and yet here we are, and here's where we find ourselves. So I'm going to do these videos because I want you to know that it's doable. Okay, it's not pleasant, but it is doable. So I think that the first video ought to be about mindset. Now, a friend of mine said to me, don't think of chemotherapy as a poison entering your body. Instead, see it as a therapy, see it as a healing elixir. And so when I went and had my chemotherapy, that's what I saw. I saw it as like a white light entering my body. And when I wrote about therapy, I always put the actual therapy, the word therapy, in block capital letters because I wanted to be focusing on the therapy aspect. Little things like that can really help shift your mindset. So they're just strategies that help make it a bit easier. Another friend of mine said, she was told in 2006 that she'd got well, initially she'd only got a short time to live because her breast cancer had already metastasized, and it had gone to her bones and her liver, so she was already stage 4. But that was 17 years ago. So cancer, she said, is 90% one in the brain. Um, and quite frankly, she's still here kicking my butt when I moan about anything to do with my cancer journey. So she believes she's here because she was on the very first trial of EC, what's known as the Red Devil, and she believes that it helped her to continue living. And so when she knew that I was going to have the EC and the docetaxel, I was going to have 4 of each, she felt that I was getting a good drug, that I was going to get something that was going to work. And again, that's another thing that you can tell yourself, that the chemotherapy is therapy and it's designed to work. And there's lots of studies that say that it does work. So the thing to remind yourself frequently is that it will soon be over. You will feel better after each treatment fades. Sometimes, I mean, not going to lie, chemotherapy is cumulative. So each session is different, and you will take sometimes a little bit longer to get better, but you will get better. Okay. Um, so there's a song as well, isn't it? What a difference a day makes. 24 little hours. And that would always run through my head. So on the days when I felt really quite poorly, I used to think, this time tomorrow, I'm going to feel better. And invariably, I did. So um, that's something to think about. There's a massive difference in 24 hours. We didn't choose to be here. Many of us had what we would consider healthy lifestyles. A friend of mine who was diagnosed with cancer recently said, "Why me?" But quite frankly, why not you? One in two of us is going to get some form of cancer diagnosis. You know, let's just actually let that sink in. One in two of us is going to get a cancer diagnosis. It's not a punishment. It's not karma. And I think any religion that tries to use this is, as far as I'm concerned, very far removed from God. I do not like organized religion. I've seen it as something that is actually quite often corrupt and quite often void of love. As far as I'm concerned, God is love, end of. A loving God does not revolve around punishment, guilt, or shame. So any religion that wants to punish or has guilt or shame, to me, is not something I'm interested in, because I don't think that goes with the universal laws of love. You don't need to have a faith in God to overcome cancer, but you do need a faith in yourself, a faith in your body's ability to heal, and hope that it will do so. So, whatever you do to foster those feelings, I do believe in God, but that's a whole different video. So, the last thing that we need to think of is that we've done something wrong to get cancer. Cancer is rampant all over the world, and there's a lot of internal and external factors that go to contribute to why you've got cancer. Um, I for years had a lot of stress, and I had a lot of inflammation, and I had my hormones w- were messed up, basically. Um, I would go to the doctors to ask for some help, and I would not get any help from a doctor. And then, unfortunately, when you get a cancer diagnosis, you realize that hormones and inflammation and stress are all really big parts of, helping to make it an environment that cancer can grow in. Our Western medicine, unfortunately, only looks at treating symptoms. It very rarely looks at the prevention, and it very rarely joins the dots between mind, body, spirit, emotions. Trauma plays a big role, and no one was asking about my childhood or my previous mental health. They were only concerned with how I was mentally coping with the current treatment. I'm not a naturally positive person. My natural disposition is actually to lean towards depression. But I have taught myself various techniques, and the universe, God, has shown me many practices that has helped for me to choose positivity and happiness. So over the years, I've realized that my positivity and my happiness not only comes from within, but it's a choice that I make, and no one can make that choice for me. So I chose back in 2006 to be more positive, and I choose it now in my current journey. I decided at the very beginning that I wasn't going to fight cancer. Instead, I was going to surround myself with love for my family, love for my body, love for my rogue cells that had somehow faltered and gone into cancer producing overdrive. So it was all about love, and I was going to aim to shift my thinking and think as positively as I could about the treatments as well. Don't get me wrong, that is not actually an easy thing to do. And some days I had to dig really, really deep. But equally, I couldn't afford to lie in my bed thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. Because that kind of thinking would only make me feel worse. I had to think instead of things that I would do once I was over all of this, out the other side and healed. So It takes enormous effort because being negative is so much easier than being positive. Being negative though just makes you feel like shit. And there's enough stuff that you're going to be going through that's going to make you feel crap as it is. So it really is about stopping those thoughts that are negative and depressing, and instead rewinding those thoughts back and reframing it, trying to make them into something better. You can control your thinking, and when you do take control of your thinking and you take it by the horns and deliberately make it more positive, you will feel better as a result, and feeling better helps you to cope better. And if you can't change a thought into something more positive, then use whatever technique you can to release the thought, and put in something better. Many years ago, well, 2004 maybe, I came across something called the tapping solution, and this was a quite a good coping mechanism. But there were two things really. One, you can't do the tapping, which is where you tap on various um, you know key points along your body. Um, you can't do that while you're driving, especially the underarm one, and you can't really do it when you're in a meeting with your surgeon or your oncologist. So I needed to find a different way of being able to release. And in 2009, I came across the Sedona method by Hale Dworskin, and that has helped me so much. I mean, it's part of my planting positivity, and there's lots of videos on my Jenny Eden YouTube channel regarding planting positivity. So I won't go into that too much here. But it's helped me tremendously over the years, and it is really helping me with my current diagnosis that I got in November 22. But there's so much out there now, and there's no one size that fits all. So find whatever works for you, find whatever resonates with you. If it doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't strike home as being some kind of truth, then it's not the right thing for you. So go find what the right thing is that helps you to release, because just like that film Frozen, it is about letting it go. I've practiced meditation since 1986, and I've done it regularly. Like, I've had a regular practice, daily practice since 1997. And I love it, and I get an awful lot from it. And do you know what? There is no wrong way to meditate. Do whatever works for you. Meditation is all about just trying to slow your thinking, and maybe give your brain a time when there isn't really much thought. Yeah, we've seen the monks, the Tibetan monks, being able to practice meditation for hours and hours on end. Of course we have, but you don't have to be a monk, and you don't have to take yourself off to a mountaintop. In fact, the best meditation practice is the practice that you can continue whilst living in the 21st century and coping with what the 21st century is throwing at us. So you can breathe deeply and focus on painting, and that's a form of meditation. You can go for a walk, you can sit in stillness, you can sit in darkness, you can watch a candle burn, anything that quietens your mind. And initially you might only manage 30 seconds, you might only manage 25 seconds, and then you realize you've got a thought. So just breathe, let the thought go, come back to a place of quietness, and try again. And just know that it takes time. Okay, you just keep practicing, and eventually you get to be able to do it for longer. There are loads of guided meditations, absolutely loads, on anything and everything. Meditation on trauma, meditation on healing, meditation on anxiety, meditation, probably even meditations on cancer. I've focused on lots of healing meditations. So if you know, it's all about doing whatever you can so that you're not distracted. And if you find that you can't let go of some of those thoughts, then do whatever you need to do to distract yourself. So, watch or listen to anything that makes you feel good. So, an upbeat song, comedy sketches on YouTube, whatever makes you laugh. There's a bunch of four guys on Instagram that have got elastic bands tied around their calves and kazoos in their mouth, and they're all behind each other, and the person behind snaps the elastic band on the calf, and of course that makes the person with the kazoo in their mouth startled, might cry out a little bit because it's painful. But because of the kazoo, it just makes this ridiculous sound. That will have me laughing my head off. And quite frankly, if I'm belly laughing about something, then it's a distraction, and then it's my choice if I go back to the thought that's making me feel down. Instead, I can choose to think much more uplifting thoughts, and it's just do what you can. Now, you'll probably be very surprised about the amount of love and support that you get from people. You'll probably not get the support from the people that you expect to get it from. Um, I've You're asked to join, that it's suggested that you join like the UK breast cancer Facebook page, and that's a really good site for getting some information and getting support, helping others. But I've been really surprised at how many people on there talk about their family just, not talking about it, or assuming that they're lying, or because they've had chemo, they can just get on with it now. So you might not get the expected support from family, and I don't know all the reasons why that is, but I do suspect that it's a form of protection, and it's comes from a point of fear. um, they can't cope with their fears about you and your situation, and it's not ideal. Let's face it, we'd all walk away if we could. But if family don't make the effort that you expect, of course it hurts. Of course it does. But try to remember that it's probably their love for you that's causing that fear. Um, it's easier said than done when you're lying in your bed feeling like shit, and all you want is someone to come round and just natter to you. But their behaviors usually do come from a place of love. And the thing to remember is that everybody is just doing the best they can with the knowledge and skills they have. Um, I've heard that other people have lost their friends, their friends stop calling. And even on a couple of occasions, people have said how their friends have crossed over the road to avoid them. I mean, again, I suspect it's fear. They don't want to say the wrong thing, and they're scared of death. And let's face it, um, when we hear the word cancer, at some point or other, someone's going to also be thinking about death. So, um, to anyone who has a friend who gets diagnosed, you probably won't offend them because you're their friend at the end of the day. You won't offend them if you say something awkward, and maybe even if you say something in bad taste, but you will hurt them by stopping all communication, by not um, not visiting, or not checking in on them. And if you're a person with a diagnosis, then try to breathe and try to release expectations of what you expect from other people, because they can't give you what they haven't got to give. So this is a time to focus on yourself now, and be the one that's helping yourself and giving yourself what you need. So it's tough, but it is important that you put yourself first at this moment in time. So my advice would be to look for small ways every day that you feel better, and praise your body for its ability to recover and heal and to protect you. Now, I've been a bitch to my body for years, slagging it off for not losing weight. I've had to learn to really see my body differently, and I've started to see it as a friend, something separate to me, as a really loving, supporting friend. And in fact, in 2021, I got a meditation where it was a peacock, and I saw my body as a peacock eating the toxins to keep the temple and the surrounding area safe. And so I see my body as something a little bit separate to me, but something that loves me unconditionally and will always, always do its absolute best to heal and recover and to remove the toxins. Um, and so I've finally learnt to really admire and appreciate and value my body. And to be honest, that's a freaking journey in its own right. You will never be the same again. There is no going back to normal. I will be forever changed, and so will you. For starters, I've no boobs anymore. They've both been removed. So there is no going back to normal, but there will be a new kind of normal for you, and it's important to be thinking of it in as positive a way as possible. And it is hard, of course it is. Losing my hair was hard. I didn't like my reflection, but hair grows back. And if you saw some of my early videos, you can see that my hair indeed is growing back. Keeps wanting to go into a little bit of a Mohican, which I think's rather sassy, to be honest. My body is forever irrevocably changed. I can mourn it, I can cry over it, I can do whatever I need to do to feel the grief of it, but at some point I do have to accept it and move on. Otherwise uh, it's going to poison my life and my life experiences. It was keep my boobs and die, or get rid of my boobs and have a good chance of living. And I might still die of cancer, but at least I've given myself the best chance possible of surviving it. So I have created several videos with more positivity and mindset in mind earlier on in my cancer journey. And, you know, I've got the Planting Positivity course. Um, so I'm not going to go too much now in this video. So if you do want to know more and you do want to choose positivity, then head over to my @JennyEden YouTube channel or my Instagram, which is JennyEden84. But yeah, mindset is going to be your biggest strength against this condition. And my heart goes out to you, and I wish you all the best.